So I'm going to walk you guys through two different products. I want to share with you my thought process and decision-making process, okay? And really something to drive home here is that you can't always look at what the current sale price is. You must include historical data, whether you make the purchase or not, okay? So here's the first product we're looking at. Currently, the new list price, suppressed buy box, is 48.50. And by the way, I can buy this at about 30 bucks. If I sold it for 48.50, I would make about $7, which is about a 25% ROI. Okay? Not bad by any means. However, I also before like this making a decision, I look back, what does it typically sell for? And up until very recently, it's basically sold between here's 32.98 and 34.89. So over the last 3 months, this has essentially been between 32 and $35. Let's span out to a year. Okay, even less than that. All right. Now, granted, what I like to do is look at the seller count situation. There was many more sellers previously over the year, which would naturally drive the price down. That makes sense. And then as seller count goes down, like here, the price starts to go up. And so what's kind of interesting now is that it's all the way down to one seller. Okay? So the question I'm faced with, do I have any reason to believe that this product could be going out of stock? Okay, there's a decreasing seller count. That's one indicator. But what I would also do is go to some sites and do some simple Google searches and see, is it readily available? Is it out of stock on a lot of sites? And that would help me decide as well. Another thing I would ask myself, am I willing to buy this if the worst case scenario happens as opposed to the best? And to me, an educated worst case scenario would be over the last 3 months, the lowest it's sold for, which is like $30. Okay, right here, the absolute lowest. If I sell it for $30, am I okay with that? Right? And if your answer is yes, then I think this is a no-brainer because not only is the seller count decreasing, it might run out of stock, and then you might even be able to charge more than this, right? It is definitely a good seller, a very good sales rank. I will say it is part of a variation, so take it with a grain of salt. But I just want to walk you through my thought process. So if I sold it at the current list price, I'd make 25% ROI. Worst case scenario, I might lose $3. There's only one seller, and it's been trending downward based on my research on how accessible this is. Let's say I did go about this and I found that many sites are out of stock, but I can find it at one or two places, then I might even have reason to believe that I can command more. And another way that I would do that, spanning out to a year, but then what is the highest it's ever sold for? So like here, it was in and out of stock. It was only $29. Let's see. Let's highlight over this section here. Looks like the buy box was captured at 44.99 here. At one point in time, a suppressed listing at 59.50. Now, that doesn't mean it sold at that point, right? But it looks like it was selling here for 45, 45 in that range. So, to be honest, I don't have reason to believe that we can get much more than the current situation, which is like $48 suppressed buy box. Okay. So all that being said, I don't think it's a home run buy. I don't think there's a whole lot of risk to be bought. If you have information to think it's running out of stock, and keep in mind that the current day with inflation things, you can typically charge more than in years past. I might be willing to buy this because there's very little risk. And I think that I can climb the price um, no matter what. Okay, so that's kind of my thought process there. And there's a few other things I would dive into, but that's kind of the gist of it for that one. And here is another example, and this is a different variation of the same product and kind of a similar situation. So what I like is that there's been a really strong decreasing seller count, all the way down to two sellers when there was 20 not that long ago and 25 not that long before that. Okay, so I like that a lot. Um, Now the list price 48.90, same thing. Probably make closer to $8 on this one. But very similar to the previous one, it's basically sold up till recently between there's 29.94, $23. So this one has even sold less than the previous one, 24.50. So let's just say 25 bucks on average until very recently. Now I would span out to the year. Okay, it looks like over the last year, the highest it's ever sold for $33 buy box. There's some suppressed stuff, probably around $35 just from the eye test, even when there was a five seller count here. And that's something I like to do too, is compare when there's two sellers now. Is there another time I can look at when there was two sellers? There's not, but here was like the lowest point. It was selling for $35. Okay. And I always like to span out to all. It looks like at one point in time here, it was selling closer to $40. Okay. So I'm factoring in all of these things. Once again, do I have reason to believe that this product is going out of stock or discontinuing? If I'm just looking at the chart, to have it go from 25 sellers all the way down to two tells me that A, they don't find it to be profitable, so they forgot about it, or B, just stock and inventory is dwindling. So I would do some research, some quick Google searches. If this is on every site, then it's probably not a great buy. If you can see it's out of stock and you could find it at the right price, I'd be willing to test the waters that it will sell at 48.90. Probably not as many because the buy box isn't captured, so it slows down sales. And then I would also ask myself, well, if other people catch on and it sells for $26, $25, well, now I'm out maybe $10 if I'm buying this for $30, right? And so at that point, I don't know if the risk reward is there. The reward is 30% ROI. The downside is losing $10 on a $30 purchase. I don't like that ratio at all. And I don't have huge reason to believe I can command much more than 48. And I don't have much reason to believe it's flying at that price either. But I really like the decreasing seller count. So based on research in the marketplace, how accessible it is and what price I can get it at, it might be a different game. And for both of these, if I was able to get them at a lower price, then I would absolutely feel comfortable with this. Generally speaking, I love buying when the seller count's going down and the price is going up. But I also like to weigh with every decision risk and reward. Risk being the lowest it's sold for, whether you use 3 months, a year, whatever you're comfortable with. And then also, you have to understand just because something is listed for a certain price does not mean it's selling. So you'd have to dive in a little bit further. You can go into the data offers tab or however you go about it and kind of make an educated decision, see how accessible it is on other sites. And this is kind of how you start piecing together your buying decisions. But I love weighing risk reward. I love looking at historical information and never get too excited. Just because something is listed for something does not mean that it's selling. And that's kind of my breakdown on those two products. Thanks for being here, Jonathan, Duke Does Amazon. Take care, guys.